right. President Trump coming up next hour. Next hour. Yes, yes, yes. Yep. Okay. Here we go. All right. Whoa, what's this? Whoa. E. North Smithfield. E. Wow. Holy cow. Either an inbred or early man. It's quite a posting from North Smithfield Police, the town of North Smithfield, I should say. Oh boy. Indeed. All right. Here we go. Yes, yes, and yes. We're live in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes. It's the afternoon news. Afternoon news. Are you aware? I'm well aware. No one's more aware than I am of what time it is. Yes. There we go. Who do I see? Again, there's Donna. I love the high JFD. Love that. There's Joe Rowe. There's Lynn Miller, your mayor. There's Brenda. Hola. Yes. There's David Anthony Grillo. Debbie. Folks, we're live just 2 minutes. It's a big day. Embarrassing that this Waltz, the vice presidential candidate with Harris, of course, they're just coming into Rhode Island to treat it like an ATM and just collect some money. That's it. So I also want to read this. Wow, that's hardcore. What I'm seeing right now going on in the UK, that is amazing. What? UK authorities have begun to arrest citizens for social media posts containing inaccurate information. How is that possible? Wow. Sounds a little extreme to me. Good afternoon to everybody also on X and YouTube. And we are on, yes, we are on Facebook. That's all true. Yes, we are, as a matter of fact. All right, we're live. Un momento. Yes, we are. There's no question about it. Yep. You can't deny that. I wouldn't even attempt it. All right, we're live in just a minute. And we're live at 1:06. Folks, good afternoon. You're listening. It's the real news around noontime. It's the real news around noontime. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380, 99.9 FM. I can go through the list. Good afternoon to everybody who is listening on AM 1380 or 99.9 FM. Check. Anyone that is listening on the website, which is crystal clear audio at depetro.com at the top, no I. And then also our simulcast on Boom, Facebook, John DePietro Show, Boom, X, which is really picking up steam, and then, of course, on YouTube as well. So we continue to expand our platforms. I had a meeting earlier with a project I'm working on. I knew it was going to run late. It ran a little late. That's why we're doing the the live simulcast, so to speak, at this time, where we're normally, it's the real news at noon. This portion of the program, though, folks, is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Locally sourced vegetables, sweet corn, native tomatoes. They have it all. 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. You just can't go wrong with Steve and Debbie and Junior and Byron at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, especially when you see their sweet corn, native tomatoes. They're just fantastic. And remember now, they are basically full-scale nursery, as I call them, Rhode Island's #1 garden center. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Well, they also have hanging impatiens, pansies, marigold bags, large selection of beautiful patio pots. Listen, take pride in your home, in your business, your property. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, and the service is great. The quality is fantastic. It's a family-run business. They're waiting for you at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, I invite you to check out depetro.com. Remember, all of our hours are posted there. All there at depetro.com. We have original video. We have original stories. I have some that are going to be coming up. Remember, depetro.com. Links to all of our social media brought to you by the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, in the market at Cohasset. And remember, they can handle a decent-sized group. Not a lot of restaurants can. Let's just say there's some situation where you need a luncheon for 40 or 50 people or more. The Cohasset Inn can handle it. And they're open 7 days a week. All right. So the big story is, in fact, I want to start off coming up at 2 o'clock. President Trump is going to have a press conference at Mar-a-Lago. Now, there's several things about this. Number one, he is, by doing this, going to demonstrate that he is facing the media while Vice President Harris is not, still has not done any interviews. And by the way, right now, and I want to touch on that for a moment, if you're the Harris campaign, and folks, we have to live in reality, I believe. You have to try to be objective. You got to live in reality. I saw a clip. I didn't see it live because we were out last night live, but I did see where Jesse Waters, somebody posted a clip. He posted he doesn't believe any of the polls. Well, there's a couple of things I think that are going on. Number one, what you're really hearing and feeling and seeing with the Democrat Party, see, to me, their reaction to VP Harris, who is not cut out for this job. She's not. But what you're seeing, to me, is the real relief where they were so disingenuous. They weren't really saying the condition that Biden was in, and that most Democrats, by all accounts, were ready to hang up and lose the election and felt they were going to lose the election. So I was speaking with someone this morning that I said, I mean, to me, the way that the Democrat Party, is reacting to Harris Waltz, it's kind of like someone on a rebound. It's kind of like if you know of anyone, sometimes there are people that, they get divorced, they were married, and then the first thing they do in the rebound is like, boom, head over heels, it gets serious right away. I knew of someone years ago who just gotten out of a relationship and went on a date. And then he was telling a mutual friend of ours, by the end of the date, they were talking about first date, got divorced, went on, I don't know how they met, but first date, they were talking about where they were going to have the rehearsal dinner. But that's what I think is going on. Now, if you're Harris, though, and you're seeing the numbers tick up, and by all accounts, in some of the battleground states, I think what you have is an energized Democrat base. And to me, again, it shows just how downtrodden they were with Biden. But if you're her and her numbers are going up and she's not giving any interviews and she hasn't agreed yet to debate, I mean, any political person would tell you that you don't change anything that you're doing. So I don't think it's real. I hope the Trump campaign is not panicking. This is a very beatable ticket. There's a lot of moving parts to this puzzle right now. There's a lot of moving parts. It's a very winnable election. And so I know President Trump, again, he was coming off such a high because of the convention. And let's face it, everything that happened to him with the assassination and then leading up to it. And I don't know about the pick of JD Vance. I don't know. I mean, I also think it's difficult. He made that choice right after the assassination, and because he hadn't decided, by all accounts, he hadn't decided. And then, it's, as you can imagine, how emotional that must have been when he was shot. They downplay the fact that someone lost their life, two people put in critical condition. So maybe it was an emotional response. I kind of tend to agree with people that say, I don't know if that was the right pick. You just want to pick someone who all the Trump people are just nodding how much they like JD Vance, and there's nothing against him. But I think I think there's an argument to be made if it is possible that you could widen your appeal. And in defense of the Trump campaign, it actually isn't fair that the choice he made was when they felt they knew, it's like you're playing cards, or almost like a game of chicken. They thought they were running against Biden Harris. And I think right now, from what I understand, they're still upset, or at least the president is. President Trump is still upset that he's not running against Biden. But it is what it is. That's not who he's running against. And the reason I played, and I did play the Fox and Friends of President Trump was on there. I think it was positive. Those are people that want him to win. I think he has to listen when he's on these shows. I played the segment where he was, and keep in mind, he is 77 years old. So, but I played when he was on, President Trump was on with Laura Ingraham, and she was just thrown out to him of, when you said to the Christian base that he was speaking to, and then you're not going to have to vote again, you meant because you're not running again in 4 years. You can't. And it should have just been, Laura, that's exactly what I meant. Boom, asked, answered. Instead, as I've talked about, it went into this long 3-minute answer of, and they don't vote. And they don't vote. And the gun owners don't vote. And like, where are you going with this? So here's what I'm hoping this afternoon. If you allow before this happened, when he was under the radar, and I don't know enough. I hate second guessing the campaign. Maybe they feel it would be good for him to be out there. That's why they're going to do it. I don't think the Chicago thing went particularly well. I think it's fair game to point out that Harris had been embracing her Indian heritage, and then all of a sudden she pivoted and is like, oh, by the way, I'm not saying that's not fair game. I just don't know if he needed to be the one to bring it out. And I don't know if that was the proper place to bring it out. Nonetheless, if they could just kind of, as you heard Donna Perry, like, get on message here. Inflation is bad. And the market on Monday just did have a tough day. And the jobs report was bad. Stick with the economy. In many ways, if the economy is poor, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters if the economy is poor. If the economy is going in the wrong direction, all of these progressive policies that the Democrat Party, the progressives want to do, they all go by the wayside. None of it matters. It's kind of like crime. If you live in a neighborhood and you're not safe, nothing else matters. You don't care that, well, we're still close to good schools, and I still like my yard, and I still like if you're not safe in your neighborhood, if you have people breaking in, if you have people getting robbed on your street, the rest of the stuff doesn't matter. And I would argue the same goes for the economy. Now, there's something happening Sunday that is, it's an unknown, and it's a wild card. And if President Trump would just stay on message, and I'll just say this, I get it. When he's at a rally and he says crazy Kamala, however he's mispronouncing the name, and they go crazy, that's fine. But like, you got to there's real issues here. These people, Harris, Waltz, they should be nowhere near the White House. By the way, he is the governor of Minnesota. I mean, this guy now, on paper, I think he's a problem when you vet quickly, because I don't think they fully vetted him. This stuff about stolen valor, he sounds to me now like more just like a big blowhard. The football coach that won the state championship, he was a football coach. He wasn't the coach. So when his resume and the National Guard, now you do learn that he bailed out before they were going to go to Iraq. I believe this guy, there's more there. There's more than him. I, carried that weapon in war. What a blowhard. He's a loudmouth blowhard. And the more they dig, the more they're going to find things. I believe this is what you're seeing with him play out is a result of when you don't have a lot of time to vet. And they didn't fully vet him with some of the statements that he has made. By the way, his policies are worse than her policies. His policies. This guy is a Bernie Sanders socialist. Walt, he is a big blowhard. He is consumed with these. I can't believe his two biggest priorities are open border illegals, and he really wants transgender elite. I mean, he's obsessed about it. Focus on that. Harris she's not well organized. She's terrible off the cuff. She's a creation. They're all trying to act like they're so excited. It's all an act. That is not, and I'm going to tell you where the real wild card comes into play with that campaign. And I'm going to tell you in just a moment. But folks, I want to remind you, if you're thinking of getting a new kitchen or bathroom, Dreammaker, bath and kitchen, full service. They take you from concept to completion. Beautiful state-of-the-art showroom located Greenwich Avenue in Warwick. It's Dreammaker, 401-433-7272. 401-433-7272. Dreammaker Design Center. Now that's right near Crown Plaza, right near Kachai. And what a difference. Respect, integrity, customer focus. If you're listening right now or watching and you're thinking you're going to remodel your bathroom or kitchen, you want to go put them in the mix. Give them a chance to earn your business. Dreammaker Bath and Kitchen. They transition from dreams to reality. Upgraded living. Upgraded living with your bath and kitchen remodel today. Call them. Make an appointment. 401-433-7272 for Dreammaker. Well, folks, good afternoon. Right now it's 1:20. Again, President Trump's press conference seems, I hope they know what they're doing. I don't think this is necessary particularly, but if he's going to feel better being in front of the cameras, then so be it. But he is having a press briefing this afternoon. What I wanted to mention about, but hold on. Oh, I have to mention, I did get an email from Mark, and he was saying, Juan, I was watching you in the video on Saturday, and it looked so enjoyable. What was the place you were at? I was at Don Jose's Tequila, upscale Mexican cuisine. They're right on Federal Hill, 351 Apples Avenue in Providence. I share their Facebook page. It's so fun being there, and I did have a great time. Now, remember, they do the back patio, which is a home run. I love it there. They have brunch on Sundays. I'm going to take Jacqueline Claire. They do Taco Tuesday from 3 to 7. They do 3-course special Monday through Thursday, $26.99. And they do the margarita flights, just $29.99. And if you're lucky, you can also do a tequila flight as well. Don Jose's Tequila, over 50 high-end tequilas. Jessica and Jamie, they're just fantastic. But they're right, Mark. They're right on Federal Hill. They're waiting for you. The real, an unknown here that's coming into play with the Democrat Party. What I mean by that, first of all, I kind of like that J.D. Vance approached the Harris jet. Although I think Vance can be effective going after Waltz regarding stolen valor. This guy's a big blowhard. Of course McKee likes him. McKee, oh, I love him. Oh, I have his cell phone. Of course, they're like, two peas in a pod. I think J.D. Vance, this is dangerous territory when you start playing with the veterans. I don't think he was properly vetted. So if you're President Trump, let J.D. Vance, let the veterans go after him on that. Now, last night was also interesting at the Harris rally when the pro-Hamas Palestinian protesters started going after her and making noise. And think of this. She didn't even pick Josh Shapiro. The Democrat Party, the anti-Semitic Democrat Party of 2024, where Kamala Harris said, I can't pick the real choice. the strategy choice would have been the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, who, by the way, he's far more popular in Pennsylvania than Waltz is in Minnesota. And Josh Shapiro actually is more like, he's a national talent. This guy, he knows he's a very strong candidate. He is. And his positions on charter schools, Pennsylvania is more important than Minnesota. But this is the state of the Democrat Party. And I think President Trump can make that argument. So I think they can kind of divide and conquer. Let President Trump go after Harris. And the fact, think of that, the Democrat Party, and I know she's the first gentleman, or vice president, second gentleman, whatever. I recognize she's married to someone who's Jewish, but it's more about the party. And it's more about those Palestinian pro-Hamas supporters. And I don't care what anybody says. That's what they are. They're anti-Israel. Think of, if they're interrupting her and making noise, what would it be like if, and they call him Genocide Josh, what would it be like if Shapiro was standing up there? That is the Democrat Party. And as Abby Phillips said on CNN, you don't want to, what was the word she used? You don't want to ruffle or instigate trouble with the 100,000 voters in Minnesota that refused, to support you because of their position with Gaza. So that's very, very powerful. And then the same thing goes for Dearborn, Michigan, where you have Tlaib and you have a big Arab population. The fact, that you can't have enough headlines about that the Democrat Party of 2024 can't have a Jewish person as the vice presidential candidate because of 20 to 25% of the party is anti-Semitic. But here's the wild card, and it's going to happen on Sunday. And who's been off the radar? President Biden has been off the radar, but he's still the president. And this Sunday, think of this, Harris, since he announced he's not seeking re-election, and then passed the mantle to her, and she enjoys the big week and raising money, and then she announces, this is my choice for VP. He's been, oh yeah, that's right. He's still the president. They're acting like she's not the president. And Biden's going to remind everybody of that this Sunday. Now, I don't see any net positive of he is the president, though. He has the right to do it. He's still living in the White House. He's still commander of the free world. He's still the commander-in-chief, leader of the free world. Now, if you're the Harris-Waltz campaign, Biden now, he doesn't have to worry about re-election. What if he likes the interview on Sunday? More importantly, what if his family likes the interview on Sunday? What if he says, you know what, dial up Stephanopoulos. I want to have another conversation with him. What if hey, get Lester Holt over here. What if Biden suddenly starts saying Biden's revenge against Nancy Pelosi, against Harris, and the people that basically pushed him out and convinced him? I have heard that Biden is looking at these polling numbers. He thinks they're really his numbers. Biden thinks he was hoodwinked. Biden thinks, no, that was my numbers. Like, he's thinking, no, I still could have won. I would have gotten my second term. He is the wild card. And if the media is doing a story on him, they're not doing a story on, Harris and Waltz with these crowds. So I don't know how that's going to end up, but he's going to remind everybody this Sunday morning. It's going to be on CBS. It's going to be run a lot. We don't know what he says or anything like that. He again throws out, though, I don't know if there'll be a peaceful transfer of power if Trump loses. You know what? He still doesn't even know who's the president right now. What do you mean peaceful transfer of power? President Trump is not in office right now, folks. But the Biden throwing a wrench in things, I don't see any way, because then that just reminds people of it's Biden-Harris. Because the Harris campaign, they're doing everything possible to try to say, no, it's Harris Waltz. It's Harris Waltz. It's just her. It's just Kamala, whatever. Folks, this portion of the program, I want to remind you, if you're thinking of getting a new roof, Royal Exteriors, call them today, 401-533-9989. 401-533-9989. Royal Exteriors for your roof or for siding. Now listen, call right now, free estimate. Call the owner, Andrew. You deal with the owner. Andrew's the real deal. I also want to mention, he's the type of person you want to do business with, Andrew. He doesn't blabber on. I've heard of other people trying to look at that. You know, these people are talking to him 5 different ways. They don't be quiet. Andrew believes fair prices, expert workmanship, delivers free estimate, Royal Exteriors, where the customer is king or queen. 401-533-9989. If you're thinking of getting a new roof, call Royal Exteriors today, or siding, 401-533-9989. They're based in Johnston and online at royalexteriorsri.com. I think Biden, I don't know. I don't know what effect he has other than it's not a positive. And he's been quiet, but I think he potentially because the more visible he is, I think it's because he's going to be more prone to misspeak. I think he's a problem for Harris Waltz. And therefore, what I mean is President Trump has to stay on message. Stay on message. The border, law and order, peace in the world, but more importantly, the economy. You know, a lot of people, when they hear the phrase that was coined in the 1992 Clinton campaign, which was, it's the economy, stupid. What a lot of people don't really understand what they're talking about when they hear that is what it came down to was always just bring it back to that. When you start going down about we want to do this and we want to do healthcare and we want to do, you know, blah, blah, all these different, at its core, always just bring it back to the economy. And it was kind of every time you start getting away from it, and they coin the stupid, it's more of just like, you dumbbell knucklehead, always just bring it back to the economy, because that's really, you know, that's so much, that's the dominating factor. If you have high unemployment and the stock market is crashing and high inflation and high gas prices in the grocery store, when high oil prices, when you have those things, people are less interested in, you know, other issues like abortion, like the border, like whatever is the social program of the day, right, that they want to talk about. I think Trump Vance, I think they have a real opportunity. There's such a difference between the two camps. And, you know, it even begins, it kind of begins at it. Look at the Olympics. There are people that say this person, a guy, shouldn't be in a boxing ring fighting a woman. And then you have oh no, they have the right, and oh no, they, and that's a really easy to understand issue. And my point is, I'm not saying that overrides everything, but it demonstrates where the campaigns are so different. So if you're constantly, spill aisle 5, and if you're saying things that are getting off message, you're taking away from things like that. I think if you have, and hopefully we will, have President Trump and Harris on a debate stage, and they have a real debate, especially, same goes for J.D. Vance and this Governor Waltz, who, by the way, I think now this guy is just such a big blowhard, and they're really going to take him down on the stolen valor, which he was not properly vetted. That, make no mistake, that's a problem for the Harris campaign. They're not talking about it because they're not exactly sure what to do about it yet. When some veterans start showing up to protest or demanding a meeting, then he might have to do something about it. but they're not sure what to do about it. But if you put President Trump and Harris on a stage, they disagree on the United States role in the world. They disagree on the way on education, as Harris is totally in with all the teachers' unions. President Trump would favor more private school, Catholic school, charter schools. They certainly differ on the border. There's certainly differences on the border. And then there are some cultural type issues, like this whole business that you have a 19-year-old guy whose name's Steve, and he's a swimmer, and he grows his hair into a ponytail so it's long. And then he says, actually call me Stone instead of Steve. And instead of swimming against the men, I think I'm going to swim against the women. I mean, the Harris Waltz campaign says he has absolutely every right to be in that ladies' locker room and swimming in the ladies' pool if that's how he. And then you have the rest of us, which I think is the bulk of society, that are like, whoa, look at the outrage with Planet Fitness. You had the guy shaving in the ladies' locker room. I'm not saying it totally decides the election, but if you throw that stuff out and make it clear to people that if you're Kamala Harris or McKee or Waltz or Matos or Healy, they believe if he identifies as a woman, that man has every right to be shaving in the ladies' locker room at Planet Fitness, even though there are 16 and 17-year-old girls there. I mean, it's just so preposterous. And you heard Donna Perry and I discussing, just like in Massachusetts, it's so important to them and Governor Healy to get the words mother and father off of a birth certificate. From now on, no, it shouldn't be. It should just be person who gave birth and then other adult, as if, again, the male is inconsequential in their mind. We need more inclusiveness. There should be no more Mother's Day. It should be happy person who gave birth. They're trying to lower the role of the parent. Think of the role that your mother played in your life. Think of the role your father played in your life. That is the political left. No. They're not that important. Your teacher at the school who's encouraging you to go through transition, the teacher at the progressive public school, the public school teacher that is saying to the 12-year-old boy who's a little confused and depressed, I think you'd be happier as a girl. Have you thought about, transitioning? You'd be much more popular. You'd be much happier. And then the same thing, it's the teachers union member in Providence and in Woonsocket and in Pawtucket and in Warwick that say to the 12-year-old girl, I think you'd be happier as a boy. Let's just not tell your parents and let's set you on that journey and change your name. And I mean, that's who they are. That is the Democrat Party. That's McKee. That's Harris. That's Waltz. All you need to do is let people know that is who they are. That's Randy Weingarten. That's the teachers union. That is the Providence, Warwick, Pawtucket, Woonsocket. That is their teachers union. That is their belief. Parents have no role here. We decide. And Waltz, this guy, Governor Stolen Valor, he takes it another level and says, if you're, you move to our state, if your kids want to go through that. In other countries, they're stopping it and saying, how dangerous it is where you to say take an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old and these teachers unions encouraging the kids, and they're going to get extra credit and you're going to be much more popular. And the horror stories that come out of it, there's endless stories of the boy that's 16 and says, I was an unhappy, depressed 14-year-old boy. And then the teachers union teacher convinced me to transition to a girl. And now I'm a suicidal 16-year-old girl. I mean, that's who they are. That's who they are. And I think President Trump will win if he plays that out in that way. We don't have time for this nonsense. Walz prides himself on that. That's not a gun you need. And of course, McKee, you know how desperate Magritte is, by the way? Let me tell you how desperate Governor Magritte is and how pathetic. You know, I was just speaking with someone this morning. Folks, here's the unfortunate thing about McKee. The number one, certainly I never voted for him. So he certainly has his pals down the dial, right? They're in thick as thieves with him. But here's the problem that we face with McKee is, you know, unfortunately, we are stuck with him. Think about this. 1 year from now, August of 2025, Dan McKee and Matos are still the governor. I know it's depressing, and I shouldn't talk that way when it's cloudy out. Then when you have August of 26, 2 years from now, he's still the governor. And I'm already hearing that he's telling the labor unions, gee, I don't know if I want to run for re-election. I only have a 19% approval rating. What do you think the unions will say to him? What are you talking about? You're running. What? You're our puppet. You do whatever we tell you to. Of course you're running for re-election. But McKee, I'll tell you how desperate and pathetic Governor McKee is in that he doesn't even say anything. I'm going to outlaw assault weapons in Rhode Island. That's how desperate he is. First of all, they're not even in session until January. It's August, number one. Number two, if that were to happen, any debate or legislation, it wouldn't even take place till May or June. He is so desperate to try to get the left, to try to get the progressives on board with him because his approval ratings are so pathetic that he's willing to throw something out like that. Now, folks, I want to remind you, I did receive an email from Diane, who's having problems with her feet. She was a big runner. Diane's now having some problems. She's not sure what's wrong and asked me, who is it that I recommend? And Diane, the answer is Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist, right in the Smithfield Medical Center in Smithfield. You can call them, Diane or anyone else, 401-949-3220. 401-949-3220, Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist. Beautiful building, ample parking, 3, count them, 1, 2, 3 doctors, board certified podiatrists that are there to treat you. They take all health insurance, all aspects of foot care, Diane, skin conditions, bunions, hammer toe. If you're listening right now, fracture, sprain, you're one of those people, I just can't walk anymore. Guess again. Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialists. State-of-the-art digital x-ray on site, 401-949-3220. If you're listening right now on this Thursday and you're having a problem with your feet or your ankle, call them. Do not just go to some pop-up kiosk or some store where you have some 22-year-old CCRI dropout trying to sell you expensive inserts. Contact Greenville Foot and Ankle Specialist today, 401-949-3220. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. That's why McKee is saying, I'm going to do something about this assault weapon ban. You know what? They're so desperate. He's looking for any way to try to make inroads with progressives, as if that's the biggest hurdle facing Rhode Island right now. I mean, it's actually a joke. But now also, it is true, supposedly, the vice presidential candidate, the governor of Minnesota, Tim Waltz, is going to come to Newport. Folks, this Rhode Island is always, they're all excited. And they're having a big fundraiser for him in Newport. You know, they've always treated Rhode Island as it's an ATM. So quick fundraiser, go, boom, boom, boom. Do you remember the time Obama came into Providence? I think he was here for like an hour. He was at a home on the east side. And then he actually told the crowd he had to leave early to go home and walk the dog, as if the dog at the White House needed to be walked by the President of the United States. They come in, it's like, hey, do you have the check? Yeah, okay. we're going on in 5. Wait a minute, everybody, well, too bad, tell them get the plane ready and then we're out of here. That's all it is. McKee, oh, it's so much excitement for him. Yeah, so much excitement because Biden is not at the top of the ticket. That's what the excitement is. I want to repeat, Harris is not a serious person. Now, I also want to mention, I'm hearing these people saying that Raimondo and Reed are being considered. They're always talked that way, that they would be considered on the ticket. Right now, if you're Harris, first of all, you have Biden in the mix. You're making all kinds of promises. So, I mean, let's talk about each one. First of all, Raimondo, Gina, I'm telling you, there's no love between her and Harris. However, she still has Mike Bloomberg, who could promise to deliver a lot of money. And then she also has Biden's ear. So I'm not surprised that Harris is saying, oh, no, I would consider Gina Raimondo. Well, what does that mean? Yeah, I did consider her. And then I decided I considered someone else, or I considered she's not the right person. I don't believe that. As far as the rumors about Senator Reed, that has been out there for a long time for different reasons. That's just not the path he has chosen. I think he doesn't mind having his name bantied about. But the fact of the matter is, Harris, she's going to pick people in strategic states. This is if she were to win. And I don't think she's going to win. I think right now she is enjoying, a little bit, as I said, they're so relieved that Biden is not running. So that part is true. But if the Trump campaign would just zero in on the issues that matter, like the economy, like the fact that by all accounts, it would certainly seem that we could be headed for a downturn. It does seem that way. If the Trump campaign would step out of the way, focus on the economy, and she will make mistakes. And the longer she won't do interviews, the more the press will push her to do interviews. If he's making headlines and Harris doesn't have to make headlines, then she can continue to hide. In the summer of 2020, I mean, that was the campaign they ran with Biden. And by the way, I never buy this thing that people say, they have an obligation. This is about winning an election. And it's almost, think of it like football. If you have the lead, then what does the team do? They sit on the ball. If you are a football team and you have whatever it may be, 10-point lead, 14-point lead, you're going to try to run the clock and just run the ball. You play much differently than if you're behind by 3 or behind by 7 or whatever it may be. So if you're the Harris campaign and they find by not having her out there, not having her do interviews, just put her out at all these rallies, and that's what she's still getting attention. They're still running her words. She's just not sitting down in a one-on-one. If they find that they're gaining traction that way, then they're going to do it's all about winning. The only thing that matters is winning. So now President Trump, he's going to have a press conference today. He's going to decide how it's going to go. And it's coming up after 2:00 at Mar-a-Lago. I'm not exactly sure, unless they really want to use this opportunity to highlight the difference between the two campaigns. And there is a real difference in the campaigns. Now, there's different people saying he's doing this because he's very unhappy with the way, and recognizes, though, all this talk about they have to define the governor of Minnesota, Waltz, before, it's a competition to define him. Well, the fact of the matter is Harris really is not yet defined. Harris was a defund the police type person. She is total failure at the border. She is not capable of this job. She ran a terrible campaign for president and imploded, and she's had problems as vice president. I believe that is what they should focus on. And when you start going into some of this other stuff, is when it starts going off the rails. Folks, I want to remind you, I want to use this opportunity that there are certain people that live in a community and they make the community better. And someone that I've gotten to know, and I think the world of him and respect him, is Paul Staskavich. And also he's got his mechanic with Steven. And of course, I'm talking about Valari Motors, 1003 Park Avenue in Cranston. 27 years specializing Volvo sales and service. Great prices, great vehicles, great service. Valari Motors in Cranston. Now you can call them at 401-942-9568 or pop in and see Paul. Now again, a huge benefit they have is Steven, who's the mechanic. And what do I mean by that is you want to build a rapport. They're standing right there. This is a pre-owned Volvo that we're going to, put you into. If you have a problem, here's our mechanic. They're not going anywhere. They're right there. And they have a tremendous selection of quality vehicles, family owned and operated. And what I mean by that is Paul's the real deal. Lives in Cranston, has his business in Cranston. Valari Motors. Again, you can call them 401-942-9568 or stop in and see them, 10,003 Park Avenue in Cranston. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. Remember, you can always listen online at the website, depetro.com. I admit, I think if we want to deal in reality and we want to be objective, I think it would be safe to say that, and I can understand why they're upset, meaning the Trump campaign, because they did think they had Biden. That's who they thought they were running against, but they need to pivot. They need to pivot and highlight the differences on the policies of Harris. For instance, right now, how many people right now really think that the country's headed in the right direction? I don't know what world they're living in if they think this is the path we should be on. Now, the condition of the state of Rhode Island is a completely different story. I'm just talking about the country. Governor Dan McKee will go down as the worst governor in the history of the state. The guy, and he's got 2 more years to continue to finish it. The guy is absolutely on a mission to just completely destroy the state. I hope you catch our segment on Mondays, Politics This Week with Justin Katz, because I just think it just, it's a chance to really highlight how much he is, in fact, bombing out on just the condition of the state right now, the bridge, and it seemingly is just one thing after another. And the fact that, think about that, when you have a situation where you can't even give away a $1 billion contract, that is just another level of pay to play, corruption, and incompetence. I'm also just seeing, this is interesting. Let's see, Boston Globe. I just saw this. Can tourism revive struggling Woonsocket? Local business leaders have doubts. Frank Irwin, Timeless Antiques and Collectibles. I think we're in a depressed city. So this is a story in the Globe. A lone customer walked into Timeless Antiques and Collectibles weekday afternoon. He wove between rows of glasses stocked antiques. He was one of 2 people to enter the store in a half hour's time. Ever since Frank Irwin opened his business, he's questioned how long he can keep up shop with few patrons walking around downtown Woonsocket. Antiquing is his passion. He's frustrated with the lack of efforts local leaders to change the image of the city. Now city officials hope they have the answer to the growing economic woes. They're going all in on a plan to revitalize Main Street, lure tourists by bringing upscale vendors and restaurants. Their hope is to build a larger tourism base and lift morale in the city. But business owners, many locals say they're dubious about the effort. Well, one thing that we can say is, and I'm just looking at some of the quotes here. City Council President John Ward said the city is an economic desert. Major highways, 95, 295, don't lead into Woonsocket. There's no substantial business drawing people in. That's why the city must adopt, if you build it, they will come plan. People who are coming to Woonsocket have to be intentionally coming to Woonsocket. That's why it's become a challenge for Main Street. So the city was awarded a grant recently. Again, this is in the Boston Globe. City plans to transform the Main Street area, call it the Theater District, going for a little like Paris. A visit Woonsocket website. Some remain unconvinced. There's a Bryant University professor said the city has to decide what it wants to put money towards. Tackling existing social issues, unemployment rates, or promoting tourism. I don't know if Woonsocket has come to a place where they know what they want to do. So now you do have, obviously, let me just see if the mayor's quoted here. Stadium Theater, all of that is true. One thing that I have talked about as I'm just glancing quickly through this article, but it is a big article in the Boston Globe, is one thing I will say about the city of Woonsocket is if you just look at the housing demand in Massachusetts, if you look at the number of people that commute to Boston, Woonsocket, and I know this from riding with the Woonsocket police, they do have some nice developments. Cumberland is very expensive. If Woonsocket, I think it is a good idea to pump some money into the downtown. Can't hurt. And people need jobs, but make it a destination that people will go out, have something to eat, drink, and do things like that. But to me, it just comes down to housing. If you have more housing, if people say, wow, I can have a new house or good home in Woonsocket and then still have my job on 495, or I can still commute to Boston. And we looked in Cumberland. It's a little too pricey. We found a great house in Woonsocket. I mean, if they do that, I think the city could do very well. Folks, this portion of our program, but big story in today's Boston Globe, is brought to you by FenceRI.com. Now listen, if you've been thinking or you're looking right now to have a fence put in, home or business, FenceRI.com, the premier fence and deck contractor known for quality, communication, and value. Online at FenceRI.com, long-term quality. Call them at 401-732-0555. FenceRI.com. If you call them, $200 discount if you mention our show. Plus wood deck construction, they're licensed and insured, 5-star rating with Google. Whether it's for pool fencing, pet fencing, maybe more privacy, security, FenceRI.com. And more people are realizing, hey, wait a minute, a fence around my property or business will keep out some undesirables. FenceRI.com. Again, call them, get them in the mix. If you talk to them, you're going to choose them. 401-732-0555. And I love their logo. It's a fence with the backdrop of the state of Rhode Island. FenceRI.com. Online at FenceRI.com. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, you're listening to the John DePietro Show. It's AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. Remember, you can always listen online at our website, which is DePietro.com. So, again, just to reset, President Trump has called for a 2:00 press conference in Mar-a-Lago. I don't know how it's gonna go. I hope he zeroes in on many of the policies of, now it's Harris and Waltz. Maybe, I know that it is certainly, people can argue that it's unfair that he thought he was going to be running against Biden, but he's not running against Biden. He's got Harris. So that's who he's up against. But and I know they're going all in on the VP choice. And I know that JD Vance is going all in, and I get that. but she's really still the top of the ticket. She's the one that they have to zero in on. She is the weak link because Kamala Harris, she's not a serious person. She does not work hard. Let's face it, in this business of, I don't even think they explain it fully when they say she was a DEI hire. That's not wrong, as a matter of fact, but I just don't think they're punching it enough, right? President Biden first said when on the campaign trail, 2020, when he was still just running for the office, wanted to be the Democrat nominee, Biden said, if I'm chosen, I'm going to have a woman on the ticket with me. And then the summer of George Floyd, he pivoted to, it's got to be a woman of color. That's all they were looking at. So if they frame it that way, you can't say that she was entirely chosen just on merit. Let's look at, there were a couple of the women they were considering. The governor of Michigan, supposedly Governor Raimondo, Elizabeth Warren, and Amy Klobuchar, the senator of Minnesota. So if they were looking at those four, why did they choose Harris? Because she was the person of color. Folks, remember, AJ Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. AJ Home Improvement, 401-323-9252. Frame to finish basements, acoustical ceilings, new homes, additions, commercial rehabs, painting, remodeling. They can do it all. 401-323-9252. 401-323-9252. AJ Home Improvement, drywall home improvement. Call them today, whether it's painting or remodeling. 401-323-9252. Well, folks, good afternoon. You're listening to the John DePietro Show. Now, again, coming up, you're going to hear the 2 o'clock news. And then this should be interesting as President Trump is doing a press conference from Mar-a-Lago this afternoon, shortly next hour. So thank you for tuning in. We're back tomorrow on the radio at 11. We're going to do Facebook Live later. Stay tuned. Coming your way is the 2 o'clock news. And then we'll see what happens with President Trump and his big press conference. Enjoy this Thursday.